Hello everyone, welcome back to Loony. My name is Loony, and today we're going to be talking about hate. As in, why do people dislike the ship of Luffy and Nami? Why do people dislike it? What are some of the reasons I have seen all around the internet and getting into debates and discussions among people who don't necessarily like the ship, and go over as to why they hate them and just give you some examples of why. It's going to be a very simple video like that. Just going to go through some of them, not going to go through every single thing I have ever witnessed or read about why people don't like the ship. But these are some of the more popular ones and why most people don't like this ship. Because I'm sure there's a lot of LuffyxNami shippers out there that are like confused. Why do you always get this hate from some random person on Twitter, on your art page, on Facebook, on social media in general, right? Why do you get this hate? Why are these people going into the comments telling you why your ship sucks, why your ship is bad, so on and so forth? Why do they do this? What are some of the reasons why they hate it? And just go over and see, maybe give you some idea of exactly why they think like this. So the first up, we're going to start off with one of the more popular explanations or reasons why some people do not like this ship. Popularity. It's as simple as that. It's really as simple as that. LuffyxNami is by far the most popular hetero ship in the One Piece community, the One Piece fandom, whatever you want to call it. It is by far the most popular, whether it's through Pixiv and artwork, whether it's through fan fiction, whether it's through just the large portion of the community who do ship, mostly ship LuffyxNami, because of several different reasons that I will continue and go over as we go on in this video. But one of the major reasons why a lot of people may not like LuffyxNami or hate on it is because of its popularity. It's very popular. It's been shown to be popular among many polls, among many, views on like art websites, how many stories there are among the community. It's very popular, and there's a lot of people who don't necessarily like the popular stuff. They don't want to be those type of people. They want to be different. They don't want to join the popular crowd, and so they don't necessarily like the popular option. Whether or not it's the right option, whether or not they believe it won't happen or it will happen, that doesn't matter to them, because they want to be different. It's this mentality, it's this idea that if you are thinking differently from whatever the popular consensus is, you're different. You're not normal. You're different. You want to feel kind of like special about it. You want to feel special that you're not following the crowd. That's one of the major reasons why some people hate it. And just frankly, I understand. It's one of the reasons why I never watched Game of Thrones, because it was popular. I was like, I don't care enough. Because it's too popular, and you're just like, I'm not even gonna bother. I get some of that. I get that. But at the end of the day, it's not a really big reason as to why the ship, should be hated, or people should go on, social media posts and comment about why a ship doesn't happen because Oda thinks differently. Oda's not going to do the same thing as most shonen writers. It's weird. You may not understand it, but that's one of the major reasons why a lot of people don't like it. Rival ships. This was basically simple. It's really self-explanatory. When there's a long-running series like this, there will always be rival ships that go against the most popular ship, or other ships just in general, right? There will always be those group of people who believe that another ship will be more favorable between the characters, or in the story, or just overall better than the more popular version or the popular ship. It happens. It's shipping. If you ever get involved in shipping, no matter what series it is, you will always get involved in literal shipping wars. It will always happen. You may try to avoid it, you might try to ignore it, but you will eventually get caught up in it, and sometimes it's not even you trying to get involved in any shipping wars. Sometimes you just want to express your love for your ship, but you eventually wind up anyway. But since, as I said, LuffyxNami is the most popular hetero ship, there will always be those ships that really try to go against LuffyxNami, to try to break the status quo, to try to, deviate from the popular option. And that causes rivalries to happen. It causes people to post on different ships about why that ship doesn't work, but my ship does. And sometimes they may get into arguments that just make no sense, because there are few people who, and I kid you not, always use this reason as a reason to not, ship LuffyxNami, and that is no romance between the Straw Hats pirates. But then you would see them ship other Straw Hats or other Straw Hats together and be like, that's fine, I ship that. But you clearly are like, what is going on here? You're clearly being hypocritical because you're shipping Straw Hats, but you saying no romance between the Straw Hats for another ship. You're being hypocritical. It's so weird. How do you, as a debater or a fan, just think that a certain ship that you are denying, but then another ship that would fall in that same denial category, be acceptable? It's so weird and baffling, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people, especially LuffyxNami shippers, who always get told no romance between the crew, but then they find out that same person ships two Straw Hats, and it's like, but that's okay, to them that's okay, but it's not LuffyxNami. So that's it's mind-boggling, right? But at the end of the day, rival ships, really, that's really why. If you have a ship of your own preference that is not LuffyxNami, of course LuffyxNami is going to get hated on. They're going to try to dissuade people from supporting it and stuff like that, but they usually use some weird mind-boggling reason as to why sometimes. Not saying that other ships don't have any evidence or they don't have a chance to be canon. It's just, if you do make an argument over that, just try to make a proper argument that doesn't make you sound hypocritical. Hero and heroine. Hero and heroine ships are the most common ships from any form of fiction. They are one of the more popular, forms of literally shipping. You see it in so many different types of mediums, whether it's movies, manga, comics, People will always find or be fans of the hero-heroine trope of shipping. Some manga and other forms of media tend to, diverge away from that, They tend to try something else for a hero falling in love with someone who's maybe not the heroine of the series, right? Sometimes they do that. Reasons for that is probably just to, like I said, be different. And maybe they like a certain, pair that they thought about as they continued writing their story, and they were like, I like this pair more than I initially thought, so I'm gonna go with this. Sometimes they do it based on the writing. Sometimes the heroine is not romantically involved and maybe romantically involved with somebody else. It's all about the writing. It's all about the author themselves. But there's a lot of people who don't like that trope. They don't like the hero heroine trope at all. They want to see something else happen because it's so common. It always happens. Why can't they do something different? So on and so forth. So it's like, that's one of the reasons why LuffyxNami gets a lot of hate, because Nami is considered the heroine of the series and Luffy is considered the hero of the series. Not like that kind of hero where he has to share stuff, but like the protagonist. It's a common ship, and it's one of the common reasons why a lot of LuffyxNami shippers enjoy LuffyxNami, because of that same trope. Now, I know some people will argue that Nami's not exactly the heroine. It's both Nami and Robin and stuff like that, even though Oda himself has stated that Nami's the heroine of the series in interviews and stuff like that. People are not going to sometimes accept it because, of character hate. But it's one of the reasons why people don't necessarily like LuffyxNami, because they want something different. They don't want that hero-heroine trope. That's just it. That's really one of the that's really a big reason why they don't like this ship. So, yeah. If you wondered whether it was because hero-heroine, yeah, there are people who don't like that, that ship, that common trope ship. So, yeah. Misinterpreting the relationship. So this is another way that people don't necessarily like ships, is because to their eyes, shippers are misinterpreting the characters, especially with characters that may not showcase, or they don't get spoon-fed to the audience that, you know, they have feelings for another character. A lot of the times, whenever we're talking about shipping, if it's not spoon-fed to people, they're not going to accept the ship. A lot of the times, they don't care about how the, you know, the ship is written. You know, if there's an emotional backing behind it and it's really well written, people are not going to care. But if it's spoon-fed to them, it would easily be acceptable, because they need character to have feelings for another character, to realize that, oh, this could be a ship. And that's most of the time why most people ship, you know, Sanji Nami or Luffy Hancock, because at least one of the characters showcases some sort of feelings or some sort of sign of love to another character. And when you don't have that character, but they don't see or recognize the emotional connection between the two characters, they tend to not, you know, support that ship, or they don't see anything between them, which is where you also get the, you know, they act like brother and sister, you know, type of fiasco, which I also made another video, but I'm not going to go far into it. But yeah, when you misinterpret the relationship or misinterpret the character, it's going to make you not like a certain ship. Now, One Piece is great because One Piece allows you to interpret whatever you want. If you don't interpret, you know, Nami the same way as other Nami fans, or people who just, you know, are indifferent to Nami or hate Nami, you know, they're going to go against a ship that is with another character that they actually enjoy, or, you know, interpret in a different way. Characters can be interpreted in many different ways. Their bonds can be interpreted different ways, but sometimes people don't interpret it correctly. Now, what is the correct way? I cannot tell you, because I interpret characters differently that maybe you do, and that's perfectly fine. It's the way, you know, writing is often given. You know, fiction does that. Fiction allows you to interpret things the way you do. You know, that's perfectly fine. It happens in fiction. But that's one of the things that maybe people do not like about LuffyxNami, is because we, as shippers of LuffyxNami, are interpreting it as romantic when it probably isn't. And when we do that, people who interpret the characters in a different way may feel offended that we're interpreting it in a way that to them they just don't see, that it's non-existent, and they hate that. I don't know why, because you could literally just ignore them, because, as I said, characters can be interpreted in different ways. I get it. You probably think it's weird. You probably have, like, you know, it just doesn't make sense to you, but it happens. People are allowed to interpret characters differently, and that can get people into arguments. That's why a lot of times power debates get into, like, really heated arguments, such as shipping wars as well. So it's like, yeah, it happens, and there's people interpret characters differently, and we can't, you know, tell people how they should interpret a character. But if you try to interpret the character in a way that isn't true, that's when, you know, it can get a little fuzzy and can get a little heated. And LuffyxNami shippers, you know, we love to see the emotional connection between the two characters, and we see it as that. We may be wrong, we may not be right at the end of the day, because Oda could be interpreting it as something else, but that doesn't mean that the people who interpret differently are right as well. So again, it's all about how a person interprets the characters, and really, it depends on whether you ship LuffyxNami or ship any other ships that way. So it happens. It's one of the reasons, and it's a thing that happens. I don't know how else to explain it. Gag. So gags are funny comedic stuff that certain characters have that give them some sort of personality. Like every Straw Hat has a certain gag that Oda tends to basically utilize from time to time, sometimes a little bit too much. But gags can sometimes be seen by a few people as something that's actually serious, that's actually something that's not supposed to be funny, and they don't see it that way. Like, they don't see that it's funny, that's a gag, it's meant to be humor. So this goes back to character hating as well. When you interpret a gag in a way that you think is serious, then that basically makes the gag not work, because you see it as something serious. Like, for example, the trope of, you know, Nami being a hot-headed, strong-headed woman who beats up the Straw Hats, you know, for doing something stupid. That some people see that as abuse, which it's not. it's literally a gag. It's shown in every single series in most of manga and anime, specifically shown in series as well. You always have that hard-headed character that, you know, does that. But people interpret it as actual abuse when it is not. And when they talk about that, they don't also talk about the way, you know, sometimes Usopp hits other characters, sometimes the way Sanji hits other characters, sometimes the way Zoro sometimes hits other characters. Those are gags as well. You know, when that happens, those are gags, but people interpret those as gags, but not whenever Nami does it. They see it as someone who is abusive to these people when she's not. She's concerned, she's worried, and she, you know, hits them in a comedic gag way to literally try to stop them and try to prevent them from getting hurt or getting other people hurt. That's the point of the gag. It's for comedic effect and because she's worried about them. She wants them to be safe, and sometimes they do incredibly stupid stuff that she doesn't approve and wants them to stop. But it's all a gag. But sometimes gags can hurt a ship. Sometimes gags can make ships not look well. And I'm not going to go into how or what kind of gags I think that usually those are. A lot of times people don't like LuffyxNami because of the way Nami is abusive, despite the fact that it's all a gag. So those are just 5 reasons as to why LuffyxNami are basically not seen as a positive ship or are not regarded as a ship that a lot of people see. There are several more, but I felt like these 5 will probably be the best ones to introduce, at least first, unless I make another video like this. It's all up to depending on you guys if you want me to find the other reasons, or, you know, make a video on the other reasons. But it's literally, these 5 are the ones that I've seen most common, and it happens. Shipping is a battle. Shipping is a war when it's not supposed to be. It's all about having fun. You know, if you don't like a certain ship, just ignore it. Don't even converse with people who just want to have fun with it. You know, I don't do it. I don't go to shipping pages. I don't go to people who ship certain characters and make fun of the ship, tell them why that ship doesn't work, or, you know, give them reasons as to why their ship sucks. I don't do that because everyone can ship whoever they want. You know, I have a ship. I have fun shipping them. I have friends who don't necessarily like LuffyxNami, and that's perfectly fine. They are allowed to interpret characters. They're allowed to have their ships, and, you know, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. But the point is that LuffyxNami tends to get the most garnered hate because of these 5 reasons: popularity, rival ships, and it's literally because of these 2 characters are basically the hero and heroine of the series. So that comes to basically a lot of the reasons why LuffyxNami gets a lot of hate. So thank you for watching. Hopefully this helped some people who may wonder why LuffyxNami has so much hate, and give reasons as to why. I know it may seem unfair, but that's just the reality of shipping. I have been in shipping wars for many years, from Naruto, Bleach, to Nisekoi, to quintessential quintuplets. Just a lot of shipping wars, and it can get sometimes ugly, but understand that it's all meant to be fun. That's all it is. If you see it as something serious, as the reason as to why you only consume this piece of medium, then it's going to be tough for you. It is going to be tough. I suggest you see it as a fun side thing and just focus on the actual story. Because in One Piece, that's the main focus, the story, the adventure, and just have fun shipping. If people bother you, block them, ignore them, because if you take the bait, then you're just going to be viewed as a really, not a bad person, but just annoying, and people will say shipping is the most toxic part of the community, when all you're doing is just defending your favorite ship from people who are trying to bait you into doing that. So just ignore them. Just block them if you don't like what they say, and don't really don't let them get under your skin. Otherwise they will try to put it, you know, reverse Uno on you to make you look terrible in return, and you don't want, you know, that either. So that's my advice. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I see you in the next video.